Great woman right here. She is absolutely phenomenal, not only in the work that she does with our politicians and the annual conference for Afro-America, which just recently occurred, but she also stands for Israel. We posted that 12-minute video of the true passion that this woman has for Israel. 12 minutes, she let the United Nations have it, based on everything.
Reunion, really, when people, oh, there's my brother John!
Hi, John!
My Lebanese brother over there. You know, we're all cousins in the diaspora. But it is truly, this is like a family reunion being here. Where people like us who love Israel, who love America, can come together, who are unapologetically Zionist and patriotic Americans who love Israel, who love America, who are fighting for the soul and the survival of Western civilization, which is under attack today. So it is such an honor to be here. People ask me all the time, Brigitte, don't you get depressed traveling, talking about radical Islam and terrorism all the time, and fighting the terrorists? And I tell them, of course I do. I'm a human just like you. But what keeps me so energized is when I travel our amazing country and meet people like you who take the time out of their busy schedule on a Sunday afternoon and come here to hear me speak and be with me. And I truly appreciate it. So thank you for honoring me with your years went by. We Christians shrunk and the Muslims had a lot of children. And they started growing and growing and growing. And by the 70s, or by the mid-60s, when I was born, Lebanon became majority Muslim. But the situation was controlled until the influx of the Palestinians out of Jordan, where King Hussein kicked them out, and Lebanon was the only Christian country in the Middle East, well, we are the only Christian country in the Middle East, or were, to accept the third wave of Palestinian refugees into the country, while none of their Arab brethren wanted to take them. We took them in, being a country that is fair and tolerant and loving and majority Christian, based on Judeo-Christian values. We took them in, they put their heads together with the Muslims and declared jihad on the Christians. Yasser Arafat wanted to create a base from which to fight the Jews, kill them, and throw them into the sea. Something he tried to do in Jordan but failed. But he was able to use Lebanese democracy, Lebanese open-mindedness, Lebanese tolerance, Lebanese multiculturalism to topple our democracy and destroy us. The war started in 1974. We stopped traveling. I was a little girl. I'm an only child to my parents, and every holiday we used to go to Beirut my father would say to me, we're going to survive because they're not going to be able to get to us. America is going to come and save the Christians. France is going to come and save the Christians. Britain is going to come save the Christians. Australia, Canada is going to come. And we waited and we waited and we waited and nobody came. We were the forgotten ones. It's like right now. I mean, how much really did you do to save the Yazidis today? How much did we hear about the Yazidis on the news today? What about all these women in captivity? Whatever happened to bring back our girls in Nigeria? When was the last time you heard anything about that? I was one of the forgotten people in the Middle East. And that's why you hear the fire within to stand up against evil. 3 years into our ordeal, a friend of ours stopped by one day and he said, Brigitte, I just want you to know that we heard a lot of chatter on the radios. And we heard that we're going to be attacked tonight. And he said, if I don't see you tomorrow, I wish you a merciful death. And he left. And I remember dressing in my Sunday best, my Easter dress, because I wanted to look pretty when I am dead, knowing that when they come to slaughter me, there would be no one to bury me. And I sobbed as I begged my mother, I don't want to die. I'm only 13 years old. I don't want to die. Please do something. And there was nothing my mother could say to me. And we sat in the corner of our bomb shelter, my parents and I. And my father opened up the Bible and started reading from Psalms. I shall walk into the valley of death and fear no evil, for thou art with me. And they started praying, me and my mom. And they looked at me and they said, when they come to slaughter us tonight, we will create a distraction. We just want you to run towards Israel and don't look back. You see, I lived 5 kilometers from the Israeli border. And we knew if we run to the Jews and beg for help, the Jews are not going to slaughter us because we had more shared values with them than we had with the Muslims. And we were surrounded to be slaughtered. From 1984 to 1989 before I came to the United States. And as I worked as a news anchor in Jerusalem, I started reporting on world events, obviously every night on the evening news. And as I read the stories happening around the world, that's when we started seeing a true rise of global Islamic terrorism. And I started realizing that it didn't matter what country the terrorist attack happened to be at, the name of the perpetrators were the same. Ahmed, Muhammad, Hussein, Ali. The name of the victims were always Westerners, Christians and Jews. Terry Waite, Terry Anderson, Colonel Higgins, the Akili Laura, the TWA flight, the Pan Am flight. I can go on and on. As a matter of fact, in my first book titled Because They Hate, if you haven't read it, you should, I list pages upon pages upon pages of all the terrorist attacks against America, where America hit the snooze button and went back to sleep. Yes. And I realized that what I used to think was a regional problem between a majority Muslim Middle East trying to either kill or expel the minority Christians and Jews had become a worldwide problem. But the world was not connecting the dots. The world lacked imagination. And isn't this exactly what the 9/11 Commission report said to us? We lacked imagination. It's not that we did not know that the terrorists want to attack us or they hate us. We have never been faced with an enemy that is so direct, doesn't beat around the bush, doesn't lie, tell us exactly why they hate us, how they hate us, what they want to do to us, how they want to kill us. We choose to ignore them. America was attacked the first time, the World Trade Center in 1993. America was attacked again with the Kubar Towers in 1995. America was attacked when they attacked our embassies in Kenya and Tanzania in 1997. They attacked the USS Cole in 2000. And then they were so confident that we were so asleep and so apathetic that they came back and re-attacked the World Trade Center the second time in 2001, and this time they brought the buildings down. Attacked the Pentagon and killed almost 3,000 Americans on that day. We lacked imagination. We are both a target. And not just from Iran, but from all the different radical Islamic organizations popping everywhere around the world. You let me know how much I have, because I know I can lose track of time. What's going on?
Yes,
for our survival. And I mean our as in Israel and America. Our survival. Around the world, and why we can no longer say we lack imagination is because we have evidence in front of our own eyes as to how they are organizing to kill us. Many of you have heard about the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is the oldest Islamic terrorist organization in the world, founded in Egypt in 1928, with 70 offshoot Islamic terrorist organizations operating around the world, including Hamas, Al-Qaeda, and now ISIS. So why should we be concerned about the Muslim Brotherhood? Because the Muslim Brotherhood brought a plan in 1982, a 100-year plan for radical Islam to infiltrate and dominate the West and establish an Islamic government on earth. In the counterterrorism circles, this plan became known as the Project, the Muslim Brotherhood Project. What makes the Muslim Brotherhood Project so unique is they give tactics and proposals as to how to infiltrate the West, how to use our laws against us, how to use our open-mindedness against us. They talk about how to use certain terms which disarms Westerners, terms such as, quote, multiculturalism, diversity, interfaith, tolerance. They say you use these terms, you have Westerners lapping from the palm of your hands like dogs. Boy, do they know us.
Right.
So they know our culture. They talk about how to set up non-profit organizations and human rights organizations and adopt very vague, multicultural names to maintain the appearance of moderation in the West in order to advance the radical Islamic agenda. They talk about how to set up community centers in the inner cities and use them as recruiting centers so they can get people engaged and involved. They talk about how to get democratically elected Muslims on all levels in the West, including government, NGOs, etc. They talk about how to get interns in different governmental offices in the West, Muslim interns, so they can have an insider view as to how policy is done and made at the highest levels. They talk about how to work with like-minded progressive organizations that share similar goals. This is why when you see the ACLU working with CARE, for example, you scratch your head and you think to yourself, how can these two people have anything in common? But the ACLU and the ADL and the AJC and the SPLC are used as the useful idiots at the hands of people like the civilization jihadist process with all the word means. The Akhwan, which is the Arabic word for brothers, must understand that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within and sabotaging, and they put that in quotes, its miserable house by their hands, meaning our hands, and the hands of the believers, meaning al-Akhwan al-Muslimin, the Muslim brothers, so that it is eliminated and Allah's religion is made victorious over all other